In 1940, the median American home cost about 2 years of the average salary. Today, in 2026, it costs nearly 6 times. That one shift from 2 years to 6 years is why an entire generation in America cannot afford to buy a house. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how this happened. This is the most important chart that you'll see. Each pair of bars is a decade. Teal is the median household income, gold is the median home price, and that red line climbing across the top, that's the ratio between them. Now watch what happens in the 1970s. The ratio is almost flat. Homes cost about 2 times a year's salary, normal, reasonable, and achievable for most Americans. Then something starts to shift in the 1980s. The bars start pulling apart. The red line ticks up, and by the year 2000, we're at nearly 3 times. By 2010, 4.5 times. And by 2020, the last data point here, we're sitting at 5.7 times the median income. And guess what? It's the year 2026. That exponential rise has most likely not slowed. If anything, it has exponentially continued its trend. But here's what I want you to notice. This chart is showing nominal dollars, not adjusted for inflation. So maybe that just means everything got more expensive, right? Inflation, no big deal, right? But that's wrong. So let's talk about the second chart. This chart has everything to do with the inflation illusion. This is the same data, but now the blue dashed line shows home prices adjusted to 2023 dollars, stripping out inflation entirely. Here's what's remarkable. Even after you account for every dollar of inflation since 1940, home prices have still gone up over 500% in real terms. To be exact, it's 520% since the year 1940. The 2006 bubble is visible right here, that spike and then the crash. But notice what happened after. Prices didn't just recover, they blew past the old peak and kept on going. From 2012, which is the bottom, to 2023, real home prices rose 95%. That's not inflation, that's something structural happening in the market. And we'll get into exactly what that actually is. Now let's talk about what this actually means for a real family trying to buy a real home in the year 2026, or at least in this decade of the 2020s. The amber bars here are the 30-year fixed mortgage rate over time. The blue line is the monthly payment on a median home. And the red line is the one that matters most. What percentage of median monthly income goes to that payment? Look at 1980. Mortgage rates hit nearly 14%, and the monthly payment on a median home consumed 56% of a median family's income. Even in the year 1980, 56% of a median family's income is a lot of money, and it's probably not much better today. That's why the early 80s felt so brutal for buyers. It was nearly impossible to qualify for a loan, let alone afford the payment. Now look at 2020. Rates crashed to historic lows because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and you might say great news, 2%, 3%, that's awesome. It's an amazing time to get into a home. Except here's the twist, because home prices had risen so dramatically, the monthly payment in 2020 was still over $1,600, and it still ate about 29% of income. Low rates didn't fix affordability, they just masked the problem while home prices kept on surging. And now this brings us to the problem of the supply drought. Everyone knows in America that we don't have enough houses for the amount of people that actually want houses and affordable living here. So a simple question is, why did prices keep on surging higher when demand was being squeezed? And the answer is also quite simple. We stopped building. These green bars are new housing permits issued each year. The lime green line is how many new households were being formed. Ideally, those two should track together. In the 70s and 80s, they roughly did. America was building aggressively, over 2 million units a year at its peak. Then, 2008 happened. The financial crisis and housing crash caused construction to fall off of a cliff. Permits dropped from 2 million to under 600,000 in just 3 years. That is an exponential decrease. And then, this is the part that really matters, builders never came back. Throughout the entire 2010s, the worst decade for home building since World War II, America was forming over 1 million new households per year and building maybe 800,000 homes. And every single year, this gap only further widened. It's even estimated that as of 2023, there's a 4 to 7 million national housing shortage. And that's the structural engine driving every other figure in this video. There's too little houses for too many people looking for houses. The demand outstrips the supply. This is basic economics, one that everyone can see. So now let's talk about the generation gap. And this is where it gets personal. People between boomers, the silent generation, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, and even Gen Alpha, they're not on the charts because we don't have enough data, but they will be affected by this too. This chart compares home ownership across 4 generations, but not over time. Instead, it's at the same ages. So we're asking, when the silent generation was 30, how many of them owned homes? When boomers were 30, Gen X, millennials, when they were 30, what percentage of them owned homes? You can see right here, the silent generation at age 30, 55% of them owned homes, but millennials, 35% of them owned homes at the age of 30. That is a 20% nominal difference. The silent generation, the post-war cohort who benefited from the GI Bill and cheap land and a booming economy, owned homes at 55% by age 30. Boomers were at 48%, not much worse than the silent generation. And then you see a steep drop-off from boomers to millennials. Millennials sitting at 35%, a 20-point drop from their grandparents at the exact same stage in life. This is not a lifestyle choice. This is not avocado toast or coffees. This is a structural problem inside of the American housing market that makes it ever more difficult for future generations to become homeowners. This chart perfectly sums up when millennials and Gen Z say it's not possible for them to get into a house compared to people of the past. This chart just perfectly shows what that difference actually is. So if you needed a chart to show the battle of the generations and really who had better opportunities at the age of 30 or any other age you can see here on this chart, yeah, this is going to be the chart that kind of proves it. But when it comes to housing, it's not all about buyers. Let's talk about the rent squeeze. Renters are also getting crushed in this economy. This chart shows rent as a percentage of income across every income group. The federal guideline, what HUD considers affordable, is 30%. Upper middle income earners, 20%. Comfortable, middle income, 29%, just inside the line. But the lowest income renters, households making under $30,000 a year, are spending 72 cents of every dollar they earn on rent alone. Let me say that again, 72% of every dollar that these low income earners earn is going towards rent. That is an insane figure. That leaves 28% for food, transportation, healthcare, childcare, savings, everything else. It is mathematically impossible to save for a down payment at that income level. And this means, you guessed it, renters, they exist in a permanent state of renting. They will never become homeowners at this rate because they just can't afford the down payment. They cannot afford the payments. They're paying so much money for their rent and their lifestyle and their cost of living, which is quite high these days in 2026, that they will never be able to get into a home. It's so significant that 21 million renters are considered cost burdened. It's just an insane figure across the nation. This isn't just a state problem. This is a nationwide problem in America. So I just mentioned a down payment. Now let's talk about how many years it takes to save a down payment city by city. This chart assumes you're saving 20% of your local median income each year towards 20% down payment on the median home in your area. Best case scenario, no emergencies, no debt, perfect discipline. In San Jose, California, 14 years. San Francisco, 13. Los Angeles, 12 years. Miami, 10 years. On the other end, Indianapolis, Columbus, Houston, you're looking at 3 to 4 years, totally achievable. A fundamentally different life experience. This is the same country, same rules. Your dollar just goes further in other places and not so much in others. So one person's scenario and reality can look totally different than another's. And now I want to leave you with one final chart because everything that we've talked about all leads here. The rates, the ratios, supply, demand, the generation gap, everything, it all leads here. This is median net worth. Homeowners in gold, renters in silver, and this is from 1989 to 2022. In 1989, homeowners had about 11 times the net worth of renters, already significant. Now watch what happens. By 2022, that gap had grown to 40 times. 40. The median homeowner has $396,000 in net worth, and the median renter has $10,000. And this gap is 4 years ago. This is 2022 data. This has probably only gotten worse. And here's the brutal math. 65% of a typical homeowner's wealth is tied up in home equity. Their house is their investment account, their retirement account, their emergency fund, their inheritance, their cushion. It's everything. And renters, on the other hand, they have none of that. Every single month, they pay money to their landlord, and their equity does not grow, but their landlord's does. The housing crisis isn't just about shelter. It's about who gets to build wealth and who doesn't in America. And right now, that divide is wider than at any point in history since the Federal Reserve has started measuring this metric. There's a lot of solutions to fixing the housing problem in America, but the first thing that we need to do is actually agree that there is a problem. So I hope that these charts helped shine some light on this issue.